Good evening, everyone. It's an honour for me to be here in Davos. Before I begin, it won't surprise you that today I'm going to be talking about the importance of progressive values in the context of globalization. That's why I'm pleased to announce that Canada and 10 other countries today concluded discussions in Tokyo, Japan, on a new comprehensive and progressive agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, a new trade deal. This trade deal is a good deal. Our government stood up for Canadian interests. This agreement meets our objectives of creating and sustaining growth. It will contribute to prosperity and will help create well-paying middle-class jobs, today and for generations to come. We're pleased also with the progress that has been made on intellectual property, culture, and the automotive sector, which has made the deal more progressive and stronger for Canadian workers. Trade helps strengthen the middle classes, but if trade is going to work, we have to ensure that the benefits are shared with all of our citizens, not just a few. The CPTPP is a new step on that path. I would like to personally thank the Prime Minister of Japan, Prime Minister Abe, for hosting the recent talks on the CPTPP and for his leadership. Today is a great day for Canada and a great day for progressive trade. The last time I attended the World Economic Forum was back in 2016, and I'd just been elected Prime Minister. I'm from Canada, not America. And 2 years doesn't seem very long ago, but we're living in an era of perpetual change. So to me, 2 years seems like a lifetime. Think about it. The pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. There are enormous opportunities afforded by this time of change. Technology always brings potential and promise with it. A better standard of living, new innovation, remarkable products. Just think of the past, how we progressed from the steam power, then to electricity, and now to computers, and next we have the supercomputers. But technology also brings dramatic shifts in our social, economic, and political cultures. This new step involves automation and AI, artificial intelligence. They're the obvious examples. And those two new technologies will completely revolutionize the world of work. In fact, they already have changed the way we work. Now, we're at Davos. You are business leaders. And for you, these are exciting and challenging times. But you're also anxious about how quickly existing business models are being disrupted. Now, maybe you're anxious, you're concerned, but just imagine how anxious regular workers and regular men and women are. For them, technology is a good thing, but it's also a potential threat to their jobs. Over the past years, we've seen economic uncertainty and inequality. We've witnessed unrest, which is driven by the anxiety and fear I've been talking about. There's fear of what a rapidly changing world means for workers and families, and for those who are already struggling in the existing economy. And those fears are valid because people have been taken advantage of. Some of them have lost their jobs and they've lost their livelihoods. Governments and corporations have not done enough to address people's concerns or fears. Over the past decade, citizens and workers have called for change, but all too often they've been ignored. All too often there's a disconnect between politicians and the real world. Politicians refuse to listen, and they chase short-term electoral wins over long-term solutions. And all too often, corporations focus on profit rather than the well-being of their workers. The gap between the rich and the poor is staggering. As companies avoid taxes and boast record profits, they also slash worker benefits. But that kind of approach won't and can't cut it anymore. Normal people have begun to feel like outsiders, lashing out and blaming the public and private sectors alike. This is an important moment that we're witnessing, and we cannot repeat the mistakes of the past. Economic growth has to generate real, tangible benefits in our communities. Trade deals must deliver better opportunities to our citizens, and companies have to recognise the obligations they have to their workers, the workers that serve them. We're in a new age of doing business where businesses have to give something back, have to give something in return, and you and businesses need to be part of the solution. Just sitting back, leaning back and hoping that another corporation or another country will provide the solution is not acceptable. That won't get us anywhere. You have to be part of the change, each and every one of you. Now, forums like this, like the Davos Forum, are a great way to talk and see how we can work together to fulfill the duties we share. We can't neglect our responsibility to the people who matter most. Who are those people? The people who matter most are the people who aren't here in Davos, and they never will be here. They're normal people. Those are the people we are working for, even though they may work for you as your employees. Those are the people who must be the priority. If we do nothing, if we continue with business as usual, then the system itself will break down and we will all fail. So we know what needs to be done. It's high time that we listen, learn, and finally lead the way. Of course, I'm talking about profound societal change, which can seem overwhelming. Where do we even begin? So I'd like to give a concrete example that every leader in this room can act on immediately. It's something that I have applied, and it's been a central tenet of my leadership. I'm talking about hiring, promoting, and retaining more women. And you should hire more women, not just because it's the right thing to do, or the nice thing to do. No, it's the smart thing to do. In Canada, there is still a lot of room for improvement. And we have data that shows that if the gender gap in Canada is narrowed, that could add $150 billion to the economy by 2026. So there's a real economic interest in hiring more women. Research also tells us that if an organisation has more women on the board or in positions of leadership, the company is more likely to do well. In the US, if there were gender parity, this could add $1.7 trillion to the US GDP. $1.7 trillion. Not billion, not million, trillion. And in China, gender parity could create wealth of $2.5 trillion, which is more than the entire Canadian economy. So hiring, promoting and retaining women not only boosts your bottom line, but it will also diversify the way the company thinks. It will lead to more innovation and will improve problem solving. If you hire women, you'll build stronger companies and stronger communities. Now, whenever we talk about women in the workplace, the issue of the issue of pay equality comes up. And I think that's really, really important. In Canada this year, we are going to pass legislation to ensure equal pay for work of equal value at the federal level. Another problem, though, is that women often do more part-time work and more unpaid work than men. How do we address that? When we dig a little deeper, we see that there are many barriers which women face in the workplace. If we're going to tear down those barriers, that will require a lot of effort, leadership, and willingness to change. What does it mean, though? What can we do? How do we encourage more women to enter the workforce? And then once they're in the workforce, how do we keep women there? Well, that will require a fundamental change in corporate culture, so that women in the workplace feel welcome, supported, and valued. So, where should we start? The first thing to do is to look at parental leave and child care policies. We should encourage women and men to make the best decisions for their family. In Canada, we are now providing parents with more options and flexibility for their parental leave. We've also invested billions in affordable, high-quality childcare. Let me also be clear that helping families in Canada has been a key driver behind Canada's recent economic growth. Companies should also have a formal policy on gender diversity, and the recruitment of women candidates should be a priority. You may remember that when I came to government in 2005, my cabinet was gender balanced. It had an equal number of men and women, and that was unprecedented in Canadian history. We had the usual people complaining, saying I'd done it just for reasons of political correctness. But guess what? 2 years later, Crystal Freeland and Marianne Monsef, who are part of that cabinet, are still part of the cabinet, as are many of their female colleagues. And these women in the cabinet are serving their country, and they're doing a really good job. They've improved the level of decision making and the debate within the cabinet and in government. So I think you as corporate leaders should consider gender balanced boards or gender balanced project teams. Whenever you hire someone new, identify as many potential female candidates as male candidates. That would reflect the true diversity of your nations. What else though? We have to acknowledge that women are the primary caregivers in society. Women are the ones that look after a relative who falls ill or an elderly parent. So we have created a new program to support caregivers, which makes it easier for men and women who want to take time off work. Now, there's another big issue I have to talk about. It's kind of the elephant in the room. It's the Me Too movement. This movement has shown us that we need to have a bigger discussion about women's rights, equality, and the power dynamics of gender. Sexual harassment is present in business and in government. It's a systemic problem and it's completely unacceptable. As leaders, we have to show that this kind of harassment needs to end. Ladies and gentlemen, the hiring, the promotion, and the retention of women in the workplace is something we can make happen today. If we have more women in leadership positions, that will help the economy to grow, it will create jobs and strengthen communities. It will also lead to innovation and change in the workplace. Now, I've also talked about unrest and people feeling dissatisfied. This unrest that we see around the world is palpable, we can feel it, and it isn't going away. These are uncertain times, and we have a responsibility to address people's concerns. The only way to address concerns is by listening to people. If we listen to our workers and citizens, we will create workable solutions. Everyone here in this room is remarkably privileged, and we owe it to society to use our privilege for good, to do good deeds. We should ask ourselves, do we want to live in a world that is segregated, where the wealthy live in gated communities and other people struggle? Or do we want to create a world that is fair? Because I think we are in real danger at the moment. There's a danger that we will leave our children with a world that is less fair than the one we inherited from our parents. And I know we can do better. Progress of any kind takes hard work. But if we think big, and if we work together and we're ambitious, we'll build a better world. Thank you very much.